TJB fan. Hi Chris, I've just finished reading Counterfeit Dreams, Blown for Good, and Beyond Belief for the umpteenth time each. They are gripping stories. In BFG, Mark Headley tells of the time David Miscavige attacked him, and he started to retaliate, but the group around DM swarmed about him and forced him outside to cool off. Is there anybody else who has stood up to DM? It is hard to imagine there is not even one person man enough to do this. Is DM so buff that he is like a small version of Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is everybody actually physically afraid of him? I can only guess everyone is afraid of being offloaded, but why can't an offloadee stand firm and deny him that power? And you don't even mention my book. You know, some people. Just kidding. All right, so let's talk about the mindset of people who are around David Miscavige, who is likened to, by himself, the Pope of Scientology, okay? But it's a good analogy to answer this question. Could you imagine that if the Pope in the Vatican, surrounded by, the people who surround him, and this is from my understanding of the Pope, okay? I'm not a Catholic, so, maybe I'm getting this wrong here, but it's just an analogy. But can you imagine the inner circle of the Vatican, right? If the Pope went off the rails and started, hitting somebody, could you imagine the other bishops beating up on him? Like the Pope, right? In other words, whether that analogy works or not, and I might get comments from Catholics about that analogy, my point is this. David Miscavige is not just another guy when it comes to Scientologists, and especially not to Sea Org members. He is the leader of Scientology. He is Scientology personified to those people. And that carries a weight and significance and duty to follow his orders and directions, to cater to his whims, to do what he says. David Miscavige also has a pin and a card that he wears. When Scientologists, when Sea Org members, go to those big events, they get up all dressed up in their naval uniforms and they have lots of braid and, ribbons and stuff like this. And I've talked about those in the past. David Miscavige only wears one, okay, when he goes out and does his dress uniform thing. And that pin that he wears signifies that L. Ron Hubbard, that he speaks for L. Ron Hubbard. That award he has is supposedly issued to him from L. Ron Hubbard, and is supposed to indicate that anything he says or wants or does might as well be L. Ron Hubbard talking. So that's the power and authority that David Miscavige has in that cloistered world. So, the way the question is worded, and I've gotten this lots of times from people, is they think they're coming at this as though David Miscavige is just another guy, and he's not just another guy, right? It doesn't work that way. It never really even occurs to the people who are around him to strike him back, or to retaliate in some fashion, because by doing so, they would be striking back at their idea and concept of what Scientology is. And instead, because of a lot of indoctrination that occurs up to that point in the minds of Scientologists, they introvert, right? If they do something that causes David Miscavige's ire to be directed to them, they fully, totally believe that it's their fault. They're the ones who created that situation and pissed him off so much that he directed his, frustration and anger at them physically. And it's on them. And they think that. They don't have to be told that. Now, you get an instance like Mark Headley in the book Blown for Good, where he says, after years of this and after, enough kind of delayering of some of this indoctrination, he just got fed up with it. And anybody could, okay? I'm not saying that all of this mind control stuff is impenetrable or that people can't break out of it. And Mark Headley describes a time when he was like, I'm just sick of this shit. And he decided to, I'm gonna take this guy on. But you saw from the book, exactly what happened. Everybody else freaked the hell out, and he became the target. Nobody directed attention to David Miscavige and said, dude, what are you doing? It never even occurred to any of those people to do that. Mark Headley was going to, come after Miscavige, and he became the, like, no, stop him, right? So it's a mindset more than a physical problem. Now, from what I understand, David Miscavige works out quite a bit, and he is actually pretty buff, and he has been his whole life. He's a climber, and he's always been, physically scuba diver and stuff, right? He's always been very physically active. So I understand that he's actually a pretty strong guy also. But that's not what keeps people away from him, right? Because he's a short little guy, and I'm pretty sure most people could probably take him if they really wanted to. So it's the mindset, okay? And I hope that I've gotten that across in my answer.